Welcome to the 2024 Baseballtown Charities Phillies Winter Tour, presented by Leibensberger Funeral Homes.
Since its inception in 2002, Baseballtown at Charities has been investing in the future of baseball, raising several $1 million to build facilities and fund programs in and around Reading. It started with the construction of Gordon Hudak Stadium at Lowers Park, a baseball palace for inner-city boys and girls of the Baseballtown Junior RBI League. It continued with the renovation of Reading's historic Bear Park, and then expanded beyond the city limits to build the Savage 61 Dream Field, a ballpark specially designed for those with physical and cognitive challenges. In addition to financially supporting the leagues that utilize these facilities, Baseballtown at Charities recently started the Rip It for Life program, which provides free lessons, batting cage time, and invaluable guidance about life to players who lack the financial ability to pursue playing at a higher level. We invite you to celebrate our national pastime while preserving its future by supporting Baseballtown at Charities. Please visit baseballtown.org to donate today.
Welcome back to the 2024 Baseballtown Charities Phillies Winter Tour. I'm your host, our Phillies radio broadcaster, Jake Starr, and today I'm excited to be joined by former Phillies player and now the new hitting coach for the 2024 Reading Fightin Phils, Brock Stassi. Brock, first of all, appreciate you joining us, and maybe the first to welcome you back to Baseballtown for the 2024 season.
Thanks, Jake. Excited to be here.
So, obviously the staffs got announced in early February, but, when did you find out that you would be coming back to Reading, and what was your reaction when you found out about that?
Yeah, it was a little bit before it got announced. I would say probably around Christmas time. I knew with Henson leaving and getting a coordinator job with the Reds that the Reading job was open. So I was hoping that I would get a chance to come back to Reading and come back to Baseballtown and a place that I'm very familiar with. So I was super pumped. I think honestly I've spent more time other than my hometown. I think the second place I've spent the most time is Reading. So I'm excited to be back.
Now, you played for the Fightin Phils for a handful of years, and then most recently came back again in 2021. Of course, you had a lot of success in that 2015 season, really successful season at the plate, and helped lead Reading into the postseason that year. Just reflecting back, I mean, now it's almost 10 years ago, as crazy as that seems, but what was that experience like, especially that 2015 season where, you really put yourself, on the map as a prospect?
Yeah, prospect is a bit of a reach, but no, it was a super fun season. Like the clubhouse that we had that year in 2015 was so much fun to be in. A lot of everybody just got along really well and meshed really well, and we loved playing together, and that was really what made it such a special season. A lot of those guys went on to have great careers still playing, and yeah, it was just, and to do it in Reading made it even more special. So that was such a fun year that I'll never forget, and I still keep in touch with a lot of guys from that team.
And obviously, you talked a lot about the guys from the team inside the locker room. What's it maybe about Reading that's so special to you outside of what's on the field or in the clubhouse?
I think it's just the atmosphere that the front office does a great job with putting on every night. There's a lot of stuff going on other than the baseball game, but as a player, it never interfered with like the work that we needed to get done. And that says a lot about the front office with Scott, how Scott runs a show. And the front office in Reading is just the best people I've ever met. So it's a lot of fun. It's just a great atmosphere that they put on, and I love the surrounding area as well. And there's a lot of good restaurants and a lot of good places to go too.
And then, just talk about your kind of career as a whole. Played college ball out in Nevada, drafted by the Phillies, and really kind of went through every level of the Phillies farm system. Throughout your experience, playing minor league ball from the time you were drafted, to eventually made your big league debut in 2017. What were some lessons that you learned kind of along each stop along the way that you took, with yourself to the next level, or even things that you learned along that journey that you're kind of taking with yourself into the new venture and coaching?
Yeah, so being a senior sign and a later pick, I knew that my back was going to be up against the wall from day one. So I really had to prove myself each and every day, honestly. So I never took anything for granted when I was playing, and I made sure that um, I put myself in the best situation that I possibly could to be ready to play when my name was called upon. And early in my career, it was a lot of kind of backing up positions and not being really a starter here and there. And then I kind of had a few breaks go my way in 2013 in high A, and ended up being a starter basically the whole second half of the season, and then had some success. But then I knew it was like, oh man, like I still have to keep doing it and doing it. And had a bad year in 14 in Reading, and luckily I didn't get released the next spring training. Kind of made some swing changes and hit the ground running in spring training in 2015, and then carried it over into the season and had a pretty good year. But yeah, I mean, I just enjoy being around these young players and being able to relate to the guys that are the later picks, and then you know getting my little bit of time in the big leagues, understanding what it's like at that level. I can help guys along the way in that aspect.
Was there a point maybe before spring training 2017 where you felt like Major League Baseball was a possibility? Was there a point in your minor league journey that you felt like this is quote, this is the first time that I can see myself actually getting to the big leagues or something like that?
Yeah, I think it was the 2015 season, because I played first base, and nobody likes a first baseman that just slaps it around the yard like I did early in my career. And after those swing adjustments that I made, I hit a few homers, and I was like, okay, maybe I can tap into a little bit of the power. And then going into that spring training in 2017, I knew there was a couple bench spots that were available. But like I said, I would have to have a monster spring training, and luckily I did. I peaked in 2017 spring training, but no, yeah, being able to make the team out of spring training was a dream come true. And yeah, it was just an awesome experience, that I'll never forget for sure.
So the moment that, the Phillies told you that you were going to make the big league, opening day roster, where were you? What were you doing? Who told you? What was that moment like?
Yeah, I was it was the second to last day of spring training, I believe. And before the game, Pete, the manager at the time, he told me and another guy that we were kind of competing for one of the last spots. He said, make sure I think I was starting that game. He said, make sure you don't leave early. And I was like, this is like my second major league spring training. I don't get pulled from the game and then just take it to the house like the veterans do. So I was like, yeah, I'll be here. He's like, okay. So um the other guy got called in first, and then um I got called in after him, and I kind of had saw that he had some papers with him that meant he was getting optioned down to minor league spring training. So I kind of knew at that moment. But it kind of hit me when he asked, he said he was thinking of something funny he could do, but he didn't want to really ruin my moment. So he just asked what number I wanted and just gave me a big congratulations. And there was a bunch of people in the room that were had a bunch of nice things to say. So that was really cool.
And then when you take time to reflect back on that moment, whether it was that year or even up towards now, like what are the things that you think about when you look back and you reflect on, you know, hitting that childhood dream and becoming a big leaguer?
Yeah, I mean, it was like everything since Little League. My dad was a high school baseball coach for about 20 years. So I grew up down at the baseball field in Yuba City. And yeah, it was just everything leading up to that moment just kind of all hit me at once. It was like, wow, I've worked for this my whole entire life, and to have the dream become a reality, it was very special.
And then, throughout your career, obviously with the Phillies, then kind of bounced around back in the minors and a few organizations after 2017, played a little bit of indie ball and then came back to the Phillies organization. after you had a chance to play Major League Baseball and then you kind of bounced around a little bit after that, uh, I guess, did your perspective change a little bit about, just baseball as a whole, or did you approach the game any differently once you had that chance to go to the big leagues and then maybe 2018, 2019, 2021, you were in different spots?
Um, I approached it the same way every time, every time I was able to lace up my cleats, it was always a goal to get back to the big leagues. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, but um, I always believed in myself that I could get back there one day. Didn't work out, which is fine, but no, I approached every game every day the way I went about my business the same way. And I think once you get a little taste of being in the big leagues and how nice it is up there, it's something you always want to strive to get back to.
And then in 2021, you came back to the Phillies organization. You came back here specifically to Reading. What was that process like of signing with the Phillies again? And how was it to be back in the organization a few years later?
Yeah, that was really cool. I was with Oakland in 2020, and then obviously the season got canceled. So um I ended up going to play a little bit of indie ball, and then I still knew a bunch of people in the organization and kind of just said, "Hey, I'm still playing. If there's something that opens up, I'd love to come back." And it ended up working out. So being back is especially in Reading, where I'm very fond of that place and the whole front office, like I mentioned early. That was super special to come back in that clubhouse and be the old guy in the clubhouse and with a bunch of young guys, especially with all the COVID stuff. There was a lot of guys who it was like their first full year of professional baseball that were already in Double A, and so just kind of mentoring them and answering any questions that they had. That was really cool to be in that situation. I really enjoyed it, and I knew especially after getting hurt a few times that season, I knew that'd probably be my last year playing. So um, coaching was always something that I wanted to get into afterwards. I wasn't sure how soon it would happen, but I did have a little bit of a different lens that year in 21.
And then about the coaching, kind of talk about that transition a little bit from playing to coaching. What sparked you wanting to go into coaching, and then the process that landed you in the Phillies organization.
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, my dad was a high school baseball coach for a number of years, and I always knew that eventually I wanted to coach. And so um, I actually dove into coaching during the COVID year. There was a college summer ball team back in my hometown that ended up having a season, and I ended up managing that team and kind of got my feet wet. And then that fall, one of my good friends is a head coach at an NAI school down the road, and he asked if I wanted to come and help out. And I told him I still wanted to go back and play, and he didn't have any problem with that. So I coached all fall and all spring, and was able to complete the season with William Jessup University and go back and end up playing. So I was able to kind of dabble in it before I took the full plunge in the coaching world.
And then how did the opportunity with the Phillies organization come about before last season?
Yeah, so I was like I was coaching at Jessup. It was last fall, so I was there after I finished in 21. I went back in the fall, jumped back into coaching with them, and then um, was going to coach out that spring as well. And then Bob Stumpo, who was a former teammate of mine in the Phillies organization, he was a catching coordinator at the time. He called me and he's like, "Hey man, there's a hitting coach opportunity. Um, if you want to interview, I think it'd be a good idea." I was like, I don't know. I don't know, Bob. And he's like, "No, you're interviewing. I already told him you are." So I was like, "Oh, okay." So I ended up interviewing and landing the job, and um, it's been awesome. There's still a few people that were around when I was playing back in the organization, and it's been really cool to come back to the org that I came up with.
And you spent last year in high A with the Jersey Shore Blue Claws. Talk about that experience, your first year coaching, professional at the professional level. What was that like? And, what'd you learn throughout that first season down in Jersey Shore?
Yeah, I learned a lot. It had been 10 years since or yeah, about 11 years since I'd been back there. I played there in 2012 for a little bit, and um I learned a lot. It was kind of similar to 21 is a lot of guys first full years, maybe guys second years. Just trying to get guys to understand how to develop a routine that they can rely on and something that they could use on a daily basis. That was a lot of fun. I learned a lot on the game planning side with all the new information and tech that's available to us now that wasn't available when I was playing. So like game planning against a specific pitcher that night. That was one of the areas that I really grew in as a coach last year.
And in Jersey Shore, you had a chance to work with a handful of guys that we got to see here in Reading later in the season. Marcus Lee Sang, Rickson Wingrove, Nick Ward, Casey Martin, just to name a few. About those guys, I guess I'll kind of hone in on a couple specifically here. Rickson Wingrove, one for sure. When actually just won an Australian Baseball League title the other day. But he's someone I think a lot of people look at. And do you relate a little bit with a guy like Rickson, a power hitting first baseman, and kind of like how was your relationship with him and how to kind of work, two guys who played similar positions?
Yeah. Yeah, Rickson, I mean, he's got way more power than I ever had, so it's tough for me to relate on that. He can miss hit balls and they still go 400 feet. But yeah, I think he learned a lot last year when he got he was having a good year in Jersey and then got up and scuffled a bit in Double A, which is understandable, when you go up a level. So hopefully he had a really good winter this year down in Australia, and hopefully he can carry that over into spring training and hit the ground running. And it goes a lot to say, especially like Lee Sang, Martin, and all those guys that ended up getting there, getting acclimated to the level for a month, maybe 2 months, whatever it may be, the second half. Now they'll be familiar with the town, with the stadium, places that they'll be traveling to as well. And that jump from high A to Double A is one of the biggest in the minor leagues. And so hopefully they all learn something from last year and can improve on it this upcoming season.
And you mentioned Casey Martin too. He's someone who, struggled in 22 in Jersey Shore, but had a really good bounce back the first half of 23 before, coming to Reading. Was there anything specifically you worked with Casey on to, make that adjustment and have such a huge bounce back at the high A level before being caught up?
I think a lot of it was getting him to just feel more athletic in the box. He's a great athlete, and he was really kind of, to me, he looked a little, when I first saw him in spring training, looked a little robotic and stiff, and I was like, dude, you're a good athlete. Let's let your actions happen that happen. So kind of cleaned up his load a little bit and gave him a little more time to recognize what pitch was coming his way and when he could pull the trigger on it. And so that was one of the main things that we worked on. I think he liked it and started to get a feel for it in Jersey. And so I'm sure once I see him in spring training, we'll be talking about some of the similar things and just trying to clean up his pitch selection a little bit and just allowing his body to unload the way it wants to.
And of course, a lot of the guys you had in jerseys for last year, like we said, will likely start the season in Reading. And there'll be a handful of guys that you worked with last year that'll make the jump, whether in April or guys that maybe we see come, June, July, and August. From what you know about the guys you coached last year and maybe some of the guys that are returning to Reading that you didn't see last year, what excites you about the potential for the offense in 2024 in Reading?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very potent offense, especially Baseballtown's a great place to hit as well. So I'm very excited about that. Jersey's a very, very big yard, and you can see some guys get frustrated, especially they can see how hard they hit a ball and what the launch was on the ball. And it's like, how did that ball get caught at the wall? So I'm excited, looking at the offense that was there last year and how well they did. And then the guys that will be moving up and maybe get there later in the season. There's a lot of things to be excited about for sure.
And I know a name that a lot of fans, Phillies fans especially, have been kind of looking at has been Justin Crawford. And you had a chance to work with him a while in Jersey Shore last year, collected some Florida State League accolades. Obviously, it's not known whether he'll start in Reading or if he returns to high A Jersey Shore. But, from working with Justin for a little bit last year, what can fans kind of expect from him coming into 24? And, if and when he does get to Reading, what's, so exciting about one of the Phillies' top prospects?
Yeah, I mean the hit tool and his speed is what really stands out. The kid can absolutely fly, and he does an unbelievable job of getting the bat on the ball. Um, and and I think he's only 20 years old, I believe. If I might be wrong, they might still be 19, but the maturity, he grew up in a big league clubhouse, so he understands that aspect of it. Is I was very impressed with his maturity and how he went about his routine every single day and what he needed to do to prepare himself for a game on a nightly basis. So can expect a exciting player that's got an unbelievable potential and somebody that's gonna that's gonna steal a lot of bases, get on base a ton, and steal a lot.
Well, Al Padrique would definitely like that. He likes guys like Johan Rojas who can get on base and just swipe bags. And about Al Padrique and about your staff as a whole, it's a pretty new staff in terms of to Reading. Al Padrique and Bruce Pedito, the only returners, but
Mhm.
you've some familiarity with pitching coach, athletic trainer. In terms of from what you know about this staff so far, from meetings, from working with guys last year, what kind of staff can we expect on the coaching side this year?
Yeah, Al. I actually played for Al in Venezuela one winter in Caracas, so I'm very familiar with him. And then when he was managing in the Yankees organization, caught him at a few stops as well. So just an awesome guy. He's a hard worker and brings a positive attitude each and every day. So I'm really excited to work with him. And then as far as Phil and Meg, um, same thing. They're pros. They go about their business the right way. And one thing that I can say about the staff is no matter the wins and losses, we're gonna be the same people each and every day, and trying the main goal is to get guys better and get them promoted, and hopefully win games along the way. But it's gonna be a fun staff to be on.
And I think one of the things about yourself, Al, and really a good amount of the staff is it's guys who when they played a lot of years in minor league baseball. So you learn a lot through different stops. You learn what works, what doesn't work. What's the advantage? I guess speaking to you personally, as someone who played the majority of their career, in the minors or in independent baseball, what advantages does that give you as a coach now to being able to, relate to the guys who, maybe aren't the top prospects, maybe who are more journeyman type players?
Yeah, I think it's just understanding how hard it is. Like I don't ever want to forget how hard this game is and how hard it is to hit, especially. Um, so that's kind of the attitude that I take into it is like, man, it can look a lot easier when you're standing in the dugout or sitting up in the stands. Like, man, why did that guy swing at that breaking ball that landed in front of home plate? And I can remember chasing stuff over my head and stuff like that. So that's just stuff that I never want to forget, and hopefully I never will. So just being able to relate to them in that aspect, and just I'm very happy that nothing was ever given to me in this game, and I had to earn everything. So helping guys along the way in that aspect is what I feel is one of my strengths.
And your predecessor here, Tyler Henson, who's someone who, similarly played in Baseball Town and then ended up coming back to coach in Baseball Town. What's your relationship like with him? And is there anything maybe you learned from him when he was coaching here, or just in conversations with him that you're gonna kind of take here, taking over the hitting coach job?
Yeah, Henson's a good friend of mine. We played together in spring training. Never played an affiliate together, but played together in spring training and played against each other down in Venezuela. Good, really, really good friend. Love playing golf with him too. But no, the way he went about his business each and every day, and just being a pro and being available for guys, that's definitely one thing that I've taken from him to try and implement in my coaching strategy is like just being available. And he was always available. I'd always wear him out when I came back in 21, being like I would always yell to him right when I got there, "Come on, Henson, these balls ain't gonna flip themselves. Let's get in the cage." And so um yeah, just the relationships that I saw him develop with guys in 21 as well was really cool. And those are aspects that I've taken from him.
And now we talk about coming back to Reading, the familiarity with the front office. But there's one thing that'll be a lot different this year when you show up here, end of March, early April. That's going to be, the clubhouses. Moving out the right field, brand new spacious clubhouses. What's going to kind of be that first reaction when you walk into that clubhouse? Will there be a little jealousy, a little, oh, I wish I had this when I play, or more just, hey, I'm glad to be back and happy that I get to enjoy this now?
Yeah, I'm gonna be that old guy that's yelling at the clouds. These kids don't know how good they got it, but no, I'm super excited. The facility looks unbelievable. I'm very, very pumped for the guys that are coming through this year that they get to experience something like that. I mean, Reading does everything first class, and so I know they didn't cut any corners when they were building this the new facility and everything. So but part of me is going to be a little sad too, because that was some of the mystique about being in Baseballtown was the tiny clubhouse and the weight room that was like 10 by 10 down in the basement over there. So, but that was one thing that made 2015 super special too, was like we had a bunch of guys, nobody complained about it. It was like having that tiny space brought everybody even closer together. So I'm interested to see how this big new state-of-the-art facility affects the clubhouse morale.
And Rock, kind of before we finish up here, any last messages to the Reading faithful, as we get closer to the season here?
Yeah, I mean, Reading it holds a special place in my heart. The stadium, the front office, the city. I remember, can't wait to see Briscoe, can't wait to see Funk, all the people that I'm forgetting about, I'm sorry, but Marlene, my Reading grandmother, I'm excited. Yeah, it's just, I think I remember telling Jax, the crazy hot dog vendor, I think I remember telling him at the end of 21, I told him I'll be back here someday. Don't worry, I'll be back someday. So I'm super pumped to be back.
Well, someday certainly came very soon, and I know the Fightin' Phils are excited to have Brock Stassi back in the Art Phils clubhouse and on the field this year. Brock, we really appreciate you joining us today. Have a great spring training, and we can't wait to see you here in early April.
Thanks, Jake. I'm excited to be back.
That'll do it for this edition of the Baseballtown Charities Phillies Winter Tour presented by Leibensberger Funeral Home. Once again, a big thank you to Brock Stassi for joining us. I'm our Phils broadcaster, Jake Starr, and we'll talk to you next time here on the Phillies Winter Tour.
After losing a loved one, families often wonder what next. You'll find the answer at Leibensberger Funeral Homes.
Everyone who walks through our doors is treated with respect and compassion.
We take the time to learn about your loved one and celebrate their life with a service that reflects who they really were.
Offering 2 locations, ample parking, and a spacious chapel and vestibule. Let our family help your family find peace at Leibensberger Funeral Homes.
Thank you for watching the 2024 Baseballtown Charities Phillies Winter Tour presented by Leibensberger Funeral Home.